Okay.
But so I mean, I think that's a good disposition. That's a very good composure to have. Wait a second. On the other hand, just because something is a newly innovated matter, because it's something that we haven't heard before, that doesn't mean that it is categorically un-Islamic, categorically unacceptable, right? And people with much more knowledge than me, that Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, mashallah. People with much more knowledge than me and people that are qualified to assess, the compatibility of some of these newly innovated matters with the revealed tradition, do so, right? And they rule on those things, right? But in terms of like your own kind of feeling about things, I think that's a good one. I think that's a good one to have. I think one of the things that we lack as a community is like an appreciation for personal religious commitment. Like I myself can be opposed to something or be uncomfortable with something without saying that it's haram. I mean, I don't have to say that somebody's going to go to hell for trick-or-treating, which I don't believe. I don't believe that somebody will go to hell for trick-or-treating. I don't believe that somebody will go to hell for putting on a costume on Halloween. But I don't do it myself. And I wouldn't allow my children to their dismay. To their dismay, I don't engage in that. But I don't have to say it's haram. Why is it haram? Why? If sometimes a person might hear me engaging somebody and they may think, oh, he goes trick-or-treating. No, I don't go trick-or-treating. But if somebody, it's haram, meaning like it's fi'lun mu'aqab alayh, it's something that if a person does it, they'll be punished for, asking for candy, putting on a costume, recognizing a non-religious holiday. I don't think so, actually. But I don't do it myself. It's not, it's a part of, kind of the popular culture of America that I don't feel compelled by, right? But if somebody does, what am I going to say about that? And I think like we almost engage as if like we're prophets or something like that. You know what I'm saying? For me to say I'm uncomfortable with something, I am an individual Muslim man or woman of conscience. I am going to stand before God and answer for my actions. I have the right to say I'm uncomfortable with this. Now, if somebody else does it, I'm not going to say it's haram and you're going to go to hell. And hey, I'm not comfortable with that. Right? I remember my first time attending like a dhikr circle. I was a new Muslim. I had only been Muslim for maybe 6 or 7 months, and I had never seen anything like that. And in fact, having some exposure to Pentecostalism, which is like the Pentecost in Christianity is like the church of kind of the living Holy Spirit. So people are being possessed by the Holy Spirit, and there's lots of singing, lots of dancing. This is kind of what induces that ecstatic kind of feeling, right? One of the things I loved about Salatul Jum'ah, it was so sober. No singing, no dancing, right? Nobody jumping up and down in a trance. It went in and people just very sober, quiet. No one speaking during the sermon. I like this. So the first time I heard somebody making dhikr in unison, in a circle, I jumped up and said, I've never seen this before. And I still remember, I came with someone, and I think maybe I embarrassed him, because he didn't know, he just said, there's a little gathering I go to at Kazi Bookstore on Belmont on Tuesday nights or Thursday nights or something like that. You want to come? I said, sure. I said, it's a Muslim gathering. I said, I'll say, sure. I've been Muslim for like 6-7 months. Cool. And so when I saw that, I put my shoes on at the door and I walked out and I said to my friend, this is like before text messaging. Wow, that's how old I am. I said, what time should I come back? He said, come back in like 45 minutes. As I came back and now they were just sitting around talking, eating, socializing. And someone said to the sheikh, that's the brother that just prayed Maghrib with us and then left. And I'll never forget the sheikh said, MashaAllah, he prayed Maghrib, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. And that made me want to sit close to him and actually ask some questions. Because, he wasn't like, stuck for a lot. I think this is our practice. We do this, we make this kind of sit in a circle and make that. He was uncomfortable with that. He didn't want to be here for that. He left. I'm not offended by that. I'm not upset by that. And so I sat there, I said, I really appreciate the way, because like the guy who told, I guess he was like telling on me, so he's like, this is the guy who, made Maghrib and left. And I remember the Sheikh's face was like, MashaAllah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. It's a beautiful thing to pray Maghrib in congregation. Alhamdulillah. And that's all he said. I just said, can I talk to you? And we said that, and we talked about the issue. I mean, he didn't like convince me. I wasn't like, I should have stayed. I was just like, okay, I don't know anything about that, but I appreciate the exchange. But that exercise in civics, we've lost that. And I think a lot of us operate religiously like it's all or nothing. Like it's either what I'm doing is it or it's not. It's like, no, what I'm doing is very much reflective of where I'm comfortable in my practice. You have scholars that I'm sure debate and discourse about the permissibility and impermissibility of these things, but this is kind of where I'm comfortable, and I don't want to go any further. And I'm not making a judgment about anyone and saying that I think I'm going to stop here. I think I'm good where I'm at. I'm doing that. I think we have to get to a place where we can do that without anybody being offended. Right? It's like, and this is the thing. The fact that we can't do that, I think it prohibits, it frustrates a certain kind of sisterhood, a certain kind of brotherhood, because you can't really become a brother to someone until you're comfortable, right? I mean, look, we go out with our non-Muslim colleagues. We all sit down at a table. People order whatever they order, all right? Some people might even order wine, right? People order what they order. We sit down, we have a conversation about work. We go out with Muslims. As soon as the menus come, everybody starts looking at each other. Who's Z, who's not Z? It's just like, who, first person does it. Yeah, I'm thinking I'm gonna have the sirloin. And I thought you were a good Muslim. And I think it's just all the tension. It's just not necessary. It's like, okay, this person believes that this is the meat of the people of the book, and they say Bismillah, and they eat. You don't. So what? So what? So what? I mean, really, it's not. It's like, okay, we don't take the same position as far as that goes. So like me, I only eat the bihar, but I don't make anybody uncomfortable. Somebody goes to church, yeah, I'm gonna have a burger. Yeah, I'm gonna have a salad. No, I mean, I know it's how can we really develop a friendship, right? So okay, yeah, that's your position. I have a different position. Right? And also too, sometimes we're unwilling to develop a personal relationship with Allah, right? It's like, I think some of us are afraid to be excellent. Like, I think we act as though, like, I'm committed to doing the bare minimum. So if I learn that someone is doing less than me, I'm like upset by that. It's like, wait a minute, you eat whatever you want, astaghfirullah, that must be wrong. So it's like, what if that's okay? And what if you're doing something of added virtue? Because you're being more careful about it. Alhamdulillah. Maybe this person is more careful than you in some other thing. That's the Prophet ﷺ, he said that paradise has many doors. Some people enter by the door of worship. Some people enter by the door of good character. Some people enter by the door of charity. Some people, it has many doors. It was said about Sayyidina Abu Bakr, he can enter by any door that he wants. SubhanAllah. He can enter by any door that he wants. But it's like, like I was talking to one of my teachers, and we were talking about how even in the ethnic Muslim communities, every community, and I've been close to nearly every community. Every community has, selective amplifications and deletions, right? That's a part of, it's just like daisies, the beehive. It's serious, man. It's serious. This is something they tend to be very serious about. I've grown to be impressed with. It's like, you don't even pray. You don't even pray. But you won't eat Burger King. He gonna look, I don't pray, but I don't eat Burger King. They might drink wine. Sit at the table, yeah, I'm a Merlot. I had the steak stuck for Allah. It's stuck for Allah. It's like, no, man, it's like, hey, man, at the end of the day, it's still an expression of love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Meaning, like, there's a lot of stuff that's wrong, but this, I don't do that, right? And sometimes that one act of obedience is like the straw that a drowning person is clinging to. It's like the last assertion of my Muslim identity. I do a lot of stuff, but I don't do that. I don't do that. And sometimes you have to recognize that in that there's a mercy, there's rahmah, that all is not lost. Clearly, there's a lot that we need to work on, but all is not lost. Right? There's something that I don't do, for the sake of Allah. The Arabs, man, I've never seen a community of people who utilize the masjid like that. There's a lot of stuff they do wrong, but you go to Fajr in Bridgeview, 6 rows, 7 rows. It's like, subhanAllah. Everybody in there is liquor store owner. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But 6 rows, 7 rows. This is Fajr. This is bigger than my Jummah. What I'm saying? And pray in the masjid. Everybody has those things that, like, when it comes to this, mashallah. You look at the African American community, I'll say that there are certain things that even if we debate about them, like their permissibility, impermissibility, African American Muslims don't do them, like smoking cigarettes. Some do, but it's rare to find African American Muslims that smoke cigarettes. It's like, no. Because for a lot of African American converts to Islam is synonymous with clean living a clean life, right? Setting aside bad habits. Even if someone says, it's makruh, it's something religiously disliked, it's not impermissible. It's like, no, it's not consistent with deen. Like I know a lot of people that when they converted to Islam, they stopped cursing. I said, no, it's language. No, it's not. That's not consistent with, I'm a Muslim now. I've seen people that, things that, as far as I'm concerned, not impermissible at all, but as soon as he takes his shahada, he starts taking on his earrings. There's something in his mind that this is not consistent with this. I'm Muslim now. This is not consistent with that. That's something else, right? So every community has those things where it's like, these are expressions of Islam that, and then every community has those things that that's not so important. Yeah, that's also from Islam. But how it is. You know what I'm saying? So, just accepting. I guess what I'm saying is just because you're doing something that someone else doesn't do, doesn't mean they're wrong. It might mean that you are, mashallah, a person of greater virtue than you realize, right? And maybe you have to learn to be okay with that. Man, I thought you couldn't do that. It's like, I do it all the time. A simple thing like that is like wudu. And a lot of people are surprised to learn that a wudu doesn't have to be 3 times. It's not a must that you rinse your mouth out. Right? It's not a must that you wipe between your toes. It's enough to one time, head. But many of us, the only way we know how to make wudu, it's like all of the mutammimat, all of the completions, all of the sunan. And for a lot of us, it's just wudu. Right? And I think that, mashallah, things like that are very beautiful. When you've been taught a way that's actually above and beyond what is religiously required, but for you, it's like, you don't do that? I thought everybody does that. And then you find somebody says, no, I don't do that. Really? No, that's the only way I go. I didn't recommend any other way. SubhanAllah. MashaAllah. Other questions, ideas, comments? Yeah, Yamani. MashaAllah. عندك أسئلة? Other questions, ideas? Well, I mean, basics of wudu, depending on your madhab. Well, there's 2 variables. Everything else is common across the schools. One is that, 3 variables, right? For the Hanafis, niyyah is not necessary for a wudu, which is very strange to us because wudu is clearly an act of worship. But in the Hanafi school, they say, no, it's about the practical process of cleansing the. Now they say niyyah is necessary for tayammum, but they say for wudu, if you're using water, you don't have to have a specific religious intention. So if someone is like Hanafi and they just get caught in the rain, water just, they get to the bed, get home, just pray, right? The other thing is that for Malikis, and I'm Maliki, tadalluk or dalk, rubbing, is a part of washing. So everything that must be washed must be rubbed, right? It's not enough just to ta'mimul ma, just to submerge the member in water. It's not enough. You have to. It's not like washing until you rub it. You have to rub everything, right? You have to rub everything. For Shafi'is, order is a part of the tartib, is a part of the arkan of wudu. You have to do it in order. You can't do it in any order that you want. You have to make sure that you do it in order, right? And but you don't have to rub though. You don't have to rub, but you have to make sure that you do it in order. Other than that, the basics of wudu is to wash your face from your forehead to your chin, from ear to ear, one time. If a man has a beard, to rub the beard. To wash to your elbows on both arms. To wipe your head and to wipe your feet. That's the basics of wudu. All one time. One time. For face, arms to the elbows, head, feet. Now, this does come in handy sometimes, knowing that. Because if you are like traveling, you have like a small amount of water, like you're traveling by bus, I can actually make wudu with about this much of aquafina. Ready to pray. It's not the fullest wudu, but it's a wudu. Now the Shafi'is, there's actually great debate. I mean, I love Islamic law. I mean, I'm glad my background was in Sharia. I had a good time. It was an interesting field of study. But Allah says, "Wamsahu bi ru'usikum," wipe of your head, like bi ru'usikum. Wamsahu bi ru'usikum. He didn't say wamsahu ru'usakum. He didn't say wipe your head. He said of your head. So there's great debate about how much of your head you have to wipe, right? So the Hanafis, they say at least 1/4. So you have to at least wipe 1/4 of your head. You know what I'm saying? The Malikis say the bath is just for Quranic eloquence, but you actually have to wipe the entire head. So we go from, for some of us, it's imaginary hairline. But we go from where the hairline normally is back to where the hairline normally ends. And I do remember, you know. I do remember very well. The Shafi'is, though, they say to wipe of something is to touch any part of it. Any part of it, you've touched of it. So this is going to, you know, when you see that in the wudu area, you feel cheated. You know, you're sitting there, you got water all over your head. Everybody knows the sunnah is to wipe the whole head. But like Shafi'i people, you know, when you see, and I've seen women, they make wudu, don't take off their hijab, they just put the hand underneath. That's that. That's that. And you're just like, wow, that seems so convenient. You know, it seems so convenient, but right? And it's all about wamsahu bi ru'usikum, wipe of your head. Shafi'i, Arabic master. He said, no, to wipe of something is any part of something is of it. If you wipe any part of it, then that's of it. Right? Allah said wipe of your head, any part of it. So especially for people who really care about their hair, and they know that, you know, putting, you know, like if I just got my hair done, to put like water, and it's like, no, just like that. That's it. Just wet the hand. That's it. That's it. And no one can say that that's wrong. That is completely valid. Right? You've never seen someone do that? Right, the Yemeni. So yeah, that's it. Right, the rest of us are like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Well, there's a big difference of opinion about socks, right? There's a big difference of opinion about socks, and it's really it's one of those interesting issues that if one doesn't understand the issue, then you're like, what is all the fuss about? Once you understand the issue, you're like, okay, I get it. Okay, so the Quran says to wipe the feet up to the ankles. Wipe the feet up to the ankles, right? So the idea for some people, the idea that the Prophet ﷺ would do anything other than what God said is just unacceptable for some people, right? So like Ja'faris, Shi'is, famously, they don't wear leather socks. You will never, this is something you've probably never noticed, but you will very rare, you probably won't ever see someone who's Shi'i wearing leather socks, wearing khufs. Because it's not a part of for them, it's about protecting the primacy of the Quran. That if the Quran said, wipe your feet, the Prophet would never do something other than that. right? He would wipe his feet because the Quran said wipe his feet. For Sunnis, this hadith about the Prophet ﷺ wiping over the khuf, the leather sock, is such a strong hadith in its veracity. Like this hadith is what we call a mutawatir hadith. This is a hadith of the highest level of authenticity. That the Prophet ﷺ made wudu, he was wearing a pair of leather socks, and then he wiped over the leather sock on the top, right? Mutawatir means diffusely congruent. And a mutawatir hadith is a hadith that at least has 4 separate chains of narrators. All of them separate, all of them distinct, who are narrating the same event, right? Traditionally, in our what's called epistemology, or how you ascertain something to be true, this was something that was indisputable because it was logically impossible for this many people to collude to create a lie. It's a good example of something mutawatir, like in America, is Dr. Martin Luther King, March on Washington, I have a dream. That's something, if we say, call that MLK, عندي حلم, I have a dream. Everybody knows that that's true. Everyone knows that that's true, right? No one will say, no, he really didn't say that. No, I swear, I wasn't there. No. Too many people were there. So we know that it's true. It's indisputable. He really did say that. He was at the National Mall in Washington. So this hadith about wiping over the leather sock, indisputable. So all of the Sunnis accept wiping over the leather sock, right? Every school of Sunni law, they accept that you can wipe over a leather sock. This hadith about the jawrab, which is the cotton sock, it's called the jawrab. So the leather sock is called the khuf. The cotton sock is called the jawrab. It's authentic, but it's not narrated with as many separate chains. So Shafi'is, Hanafis, Malikis, they don't accept it. They don't accept that you can wipe over a cotton sock or something that is more like something that is less like leather, right? So different materials, there's disagreement about, well, if the material is durable like leather, and if the sock covers the ankle like a khuf, and right, but they hew very closely to the leather sock, right? So some people say if the sock has a certain thickness, if you could walk in the sock on the street without getting a hole you could walk in the sock for a mile and a half, and all of these crazy kind of arbitrary kind of rules that want to ensure that whatever we're wiping over is something like a leather sock, right? However, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, because his methodology is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as long as the hadith is authentic, even if it doesn't have that many chains of narration, as long as it's authentic, it can specify the meaning of something in the Quran. So Ahmed does accept that you can wipe over the cotton sock, right? Salafis, they have the same legal methodology as Hanbalis, that even a single hadith that's singularly transmitted is enough to modify or clarify something in the Quran, to make a takhsis of the Quran. So you'll see people who are Ahlul Hadith or Salafi, they'll wipe over the cotton sock. But the rest of us don't wipe over the cotton sock. You see what I'm saying? It's very complicated. The rest of us don't wipe over the cotton sock. Now, of course, because I think there has been a lot of tension between Ahlul Hadith or people that are Salafis. Pejoratively, some people call them Wahhabis, but they prefer not to be called Wahhabis. They prefer to be called Salafis. I always think it's if you refer to somebody as something they don't want to be referred to as, you completely close the door of dialogue, right? So if they don't like to be called Wahhabis, you say Wahhabis, it's not okay. Now we're not going to have a conversation. So they prefer to be called Salafis. I call them Salafis. Because there's a lot of tension between Salafis and others, people tend to make a bigger issue of this than other things, right? I can't pray behind some Wahhabi that wiped over his socks. He doesn't even have a wudu. My prayer's not accepted. And, I'm just like, look, there's differences of opinion about wudu and all of them at that. So if someone is, if you're Hanafi and, Abu Hanifa was of the opinion that a man or a woman touching their private area, that does not break their wudu. It's just a part of your body. It's nothing, right? Shafi'is, Malikis, Hanbalis, all of the opinion that a man touching his genitalia, it does break the wudu. A woman, it does not, right? So if somebody, digs in their pants or something like that, and he's Hanafi, he can pray. It's no problem. No problem. He make a salah, adjusted his undergarments, made the prayer, no problem. But someone else is like, he doesn't have wudu. But we don't let that. I mean, we pray together. If you're a really, really scrupulous person, maybe you remake the prayer on your own. Most of us don't even do that. But somehow when the Salafis, it's like, I've seen this issue like split masajid. I can't pray behind this man. I'm like, is he immoral? Is he like an immoral man or something like that? No, he's a very nice man. Why can't you pray? He makes wudu over his socks. Get out of here. Like that. I mean, I'm not saying it's not serious, but why are you choosing? There's a number of other issues that you could say, differences of opinion with regard to wudu. Or maybe I have wudu, to someone else I don't. So issues like that. So like for me, a dog licking me does not break my wudu. Maliki, that's nothing. A dog come here, fight on. Lick on. Al-uyun tahira. Living things, in the opinion of Malik, all living things are pure. Pigs, dogs, anything. They're all pure. No, it's two separate issues. I didn't say they should be domesticated. I said that we believe the saliva is pure, right? And Malik said, he said, this is the thing. There's a hadith, authentic, right, in the Sahih. The Prophet ﷺ said, if a dog licks the bowl or like the vessel of any one of you, wash the bowl 7 times, and the 7th time should be with dirt. Right? Shafi'i took this as like a definitive proof that dog saliva must be najas. It must be filthy. It must be. Why would the Prophet ﷺ tell people to wash the bowl 7 times if it wasn't? Malik said, no. That is something we do ta'abbudiyan. We do that just because the Prophet told us to do it. But it doesn't indicate anything about the status of dog saliva. He said, if anything is indicative of the status of dog saliva, it's the fact that the Quran says you can train a hunting dog, say Bismillah, let the hunting dog go. What the hunting dog catches with its mouth is pure. And you don't have to wash it 7 times. Islamic law is interesting, man. The conversation is very interesting, right? Very interesting. And so Malik says that that's something we do just for worship. It's something we do just, the Prophet, it's like, it doesn't have a logical basis. It's just the Prophet told us this about this particular act. We do it, and that's it. Shafi'i felt like, no, it's indicative of the uncleanliness of dog saliva and an overall uncleanliness of dogs. Right. Right. You don't get it wrong. You spin it and Right, but if the dog's saliva was impure, there would be specific instructions about what to do with the animal that's caught by the dog. If it was categorically, you know, if there was something categorically impure about the saliva, then it would like, okay, wherever it appears, this is what you have to do, right? Because substances that are categorically impure, ritually impure, right? The instruction with regard to them is always the same. Whether it's like blood, for instance, you don't eat blood on an animal, you rinse, and you don't eat blood in a dish. It's an impure substance, right? No matter, it's an impure substance, period, right? It's an impure substance. Saliva, not, I mean, there's a difference of opinion about it, is what I'm saying. And then I think that the domestication of dogs is something generally frowned upon in Islamic law, but keeping dogs for specific purposes, hunting dog, guard dog, uh, but they specify that the dog should be well trained. So if you keep a dog in your living quarters, the dog should have a specific place where it goes. There should be places that are off limits to the dog, like the dog doesn't come. This is where we pray, the dog doesn't come. But the dog's in the basement, it's in a cage, or we give it the backyard, or we give it the basement. And it's a train, it's not a wild dog, it's a trained dog, right? So we take it for walks, it does its business in a place that it's supposed to, like this. So that's kind of a condition for keeping a dog, right? And certainly, and then I think just even for me, when I see people like kissing dogs, it's just like, wow. My mother has a dog. My sister has a dog, and my sister and my mother, they live in the same building. And so the dog lives wherever the dog wants to live. And my kids love the dog. I'm just like, don't get that close to that dog. But yeah, so yeah, it's not, it's not like a case closed with regard to dogs. Yes.
I've heard this both ways. In terms of like choosing a method to follow, so something like my parents are Pakistani, so they did it a certain way. I grew up in Arab communities where most got right. And then Imam Munir has said that do we have to choose one? Like no one is saying one is wrong or right. It's like all different opinions.
Well, it's almost like, you don't have to choose one, right? But it's like your primary care doctor. Do you have to choose one? Okay, you could make a different appointment. You can see a different doctor every month if you want to, right? That's your prerogative. But when you choose a primary care physician and you've developed a relationship with that caregiver, um, um, they are able to give you more sound advice, right? Because they have a greater appreciation for kind of like your lifestyle, your health history, right? They have just a greater appreciation for kind of who you are, and you also have a greater appreciation for their instruction. So I think it's useful to choose one, but it's not religiously required. It's not like, a person's going to go into their grave and Allah Ta'ala will say, Maliki, Hanafi, Shafi. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. But I think it's a good thing. I think it's a way of ensuring that your practice of deen is systematic as opposed to whimsical, right? Because when it's choice. Like with madhabs, it's like every madhab has things that are very easy, where it's like, oh, it's the envy of the other madhab, and then every madhab has things that are very difficult, right? So some madhabs is like, this is very easy. So like Shafi'is, for instance, traveling. Oh my God, it's 14 days. They consider a person a traveler up until 2 weeks. So like if I go somewhere for 10 days, I can still join my Shafi'i, so you can still join your prayers. You can still join your prayers, shorten them for 14 days. I'm like, dang, I might as well just move. I mean, 14, Maliki is 5 days. Right? No, it's 4 days, excuse me, it's 20 prayers. If you're going to be somewhere and the duration of your stay is longer than 20 prayers, you have to pray full prayers at the time. Right? You're not a traveler. Right? Because the whole thing about praying as a traveler, it is to accommodate the uncertainty of travel. See, what a lot of people don't realize, that people say, travel now is not difficult. They say travel isn't difficult. Now we're on planes, and it's not the lack of amenity. It's the uncertainty. See, when I'm home, I know what time I'm going to eat lunch. I know what time I'm going to pray. I know what time I'm going to pick the kids up from school. When I'm traveling, all kinds of unplanned and unexpected phenomena and occurrences are coming at me. So the beauty of Deen is that it lets me join my prayers so that I can just kind of counteract whatever. So it's like, okay, if we're traveling, just make Dhuhr Asr. Now we're good. If we blow a tire, if we got to stop, it's like we're able to kind of condense the prayers so that we don't have to like figure out, okay, where are we going to pray Maghrib? Where are we going to pray Isha? Where are we going to pray Asr? Where are we going to pray? Look, we just put them together. It's quicker and it's more efficient, right? When you're a resident in a place, you have a responsibility to figure those things out. It's like, okay, I'm going to be here for the next month. Then I can kind of figure out what my schedule. Okay, I'm gonna pray at this time, eat lunch at this time, meet with colleagues at this time, or I'll pray during the break or whatever, because I have time to figure that out. So for Shafi'is, they give you 14 days. So if you're gonna be somewhere for 13 days, you're still not considered like muqim. You're not like in that place. You're still like figuring it out. I don't know, I'm only here for a couple of weeks, so figuring it out. Whereas Hanafis, you never join your prayers. Right? Even on the road, you can shorten your prayers, but you can't join them. Right? Every prayer must be prayed in its time. Right? So on this issue, people look at Shafi'is, 14 days, but like we're going to Cancun just for 5 days. I'm like, can't even shorten my prayers, man. I can't even shorten enjoy my prayers, right? But then every madhab has things that's like, ooh, that's kind of difficult. So like for Shafi'is, breaking wudu, just touching, even like inadvertent touching, as long as the touch is from someone that you are married to or could marry, wudu broke. I mean, that's like that's the Shafi'i school. So it's like, you're going to the store, the nice man gives you your change, just brushes in, no wudu gone.
You can't carry it. Like, so I do that. Well, this is easier for this one, so I'm gonna do it this way. It's supposed to something.
Yeah, you can. I mean, you can. I mean, but it's almost like, I feel like when you accept a madhab kind of as a system, then there are certain things that are a little bit easier, certain things that are a little more demanding, and it kind of balances out. Whereas when you do cherry pick, it's like everything is, the easiest that I can find in that moment. And while I don't think that should be disparaged, many years ago, I was doing a lecture with Imam Suhaib Webb. And he said something I'll never forget. He said, we have to stop making fun of people that like fatwa shop. Right? He said, yeah, is it the highest expression of piety? No. But is it an expression of piety? Meaning, like, they're looking for something authoritative that will say that what they want is permissible. If they didn't care, they wouldn't be doing any fatwa shopping. If a person doesn't care, like, It's almost like somebody tell me that God says that this is okay. Right? Somebody tell me that God says, okay, God says it's not okay, it's not you. Not you. Well, God says it's okay. Okay, you. Is it the highest expression of piety? No. Is it still an expression of piety? Yes. Because a person that has no God consciousness wouldn't even care. Who asked, like, is, come on, man. Only a person that there's something there. I'm not saying there's a lot there, but there's something there. There's something there. And I think that, even a person that says like, I take all of the easiest opinions. It's like, there's something there. It's not the highest expression of religiousness, but there's something there. There's something there. Yes.
When it comes to traveling, is there just like a cap on how many months it can be considered to be a traveler, even if you are actually traveling?
Well, and this is the thing, that in every law, in people of law, no. Law by its very nature, because it is the it comes from human beings. Even religious law comes from human beings. I mean, we're talking, religious law, think of it as human agents that are drawing from divine sources. But it's not like the Sharia is just like all of these fiqh books are not like falling out of heaven, like everything. No, these are just human beings that are drawing on religious sources to come up with practical answers to real questions. Because of that, all religious laws can be manipulated. Not all of them, but many of them. So with the issue of traveling, you can only say the time that you're a traveler if you know. If you know that, my departure date, well, this is the time that I arrive, and this is the time that I depart, then you know. If a person wanted to say, I'm unsure, they could do that in perpetuity. You actually could do the person like, when are you leaving? I don't know, man. I don't know. A person can keep making that intention every day. Are you here to stay? No, I'm probably gonna leave tomorrow. I'm still a traveler. I'm probably gonna leave tomorrow. I can keep doing that for 10 years. I'm probably gonna leave tomorrow. I'm probably going back to Chicago tomorrow. Yeah. I can keep doing that. Now, again, there's fatwa and there's taqwa. Right? Now, if she wants to keep doing that, it's halal. It's like, Amina and I could, as siblings, we could inherit $500,000 apiece. We can say, you know what? If we have to give zakat on this $500,000, that would be like 2.9% of 500,000 is what? Yeah. Something like that. So you're talking a few dollars, right? Right. Yeah. You're talking a few dollars. So I can say, I don't want to give away $120,000, man. You don't either. So look, let's put our money together. You keep it for 11 lunar months. And right before the howl, right before 12 lunar months, when you have to pay zakat, you give it to me. And then I can keep it for 12, I can keep it for 11 months, and I give it back to you. And you give it back to me. And we'll never pay zakat on the money. And that would be completely halal. Right? But is that something that a God conscious person would do? Right? I'd be completely halal. So look, I keep it for 11 months. And right before I look at my clock, oh shoot, if I have this money in my possession tomorrow, I gotta pay zakat. I'm sending you a wire transfer right now. Oh, it's out of my hands. Alhamdulillah. Then she keeps it for 11 months, she gives it back to me. It's halal. But is it something that a Muslim of conscience would do? No, right? No. I mean, it's like, who are you tricking? The Hanafis are masters at exploring these loopholes and become hiyal tricks. You know, there's always different tricks that one can do. So one of the tricks is that a person can keep making their intention as a traveler every day. They can get up and say, I think I think I'm gonna leave today. Yeah, I think I'm gonna leave today. I'll probably leave after Monday. 1 day trip. No, I think I'll stay another, but I'm gonna leave tomorrow. 1 day trip. Every day there's just 1 day. So there's not really a cap. Now, if you know, like, this is my arrival date, this is my departure date, 2 weeks is the longest. That 14 days is the longest that I've heard. If you know, like, I'm flying in on this day and I'm flying out on that day, right? But if a person wants to pretend to know, don't you have an itinerary? I don't know. I have one, but I might stay, I might go. Just, you know what I'm saying? Everything, like I say, it has its limits, right? It has its limits. Other questions? Yes.
Like, let's say you're driving out and you're gonna be out of your home for 24 hours.
Mhm.
Is there like a certain distance?
Yes. Now see, this is where the law is like necessarily arbitrary, because the only thing the Quran specifies about shortening prayers or joining prayers is travel, right? So pre-modern legal actors are trying to determine what distance constitutes a trip. Like, how far do you have to go to be considered traveling? No, they're traveling mostly by horseback, camelback, walking. So, some people say 38 miles. That's the Maliki opinion, 38 miles. Some people say, no, 48. Some people say 64. What they're trying to determine in each case is how far until you are like traveling. You're away from what you're familiar with. So I tell people, you can use any of those, or when you are outside of what you are familiar with.
So, like, you're going for a hike.
Yeah.
You're gonna be out for like 7-8 hours,
Mhm.
and then you'll be back home by after. So could you apply it? Even if
Sure.
it's not
Well, and that's the thing. The spirit of the ruling is, when you are away from the things you're familiar with, that's really what they're trying to capture. Meaning, like, I don't really know, it's like, to use your example, I'm hiking. If I'm hiking and I come to a good place, it looks secluded enough, it's quiet, it's dry, I really don't know if I'm gonna see another place like this as I continue to hike. That's the uncertainty that they're trying to accommodate. So it's easier just to make Dhuhr Asr right there, because I know I'm in a good place. I don't know what comes after this, right? So I would say try to use that familiarity as kind of a guide. If you know where you're going and you know things well enough, and you're not that far from home, then maybe you're not really a traveler. It's like, I know, the lodge is here, rest area there, we're gonna eat there. I pretty much got this mapped out. We'll make Dhuhr here, we'll make Asr there, and we'll keep going like that. On the other hand, and familiarity also was about, because maybe I've driven 80 East to New York many times, but I'm still traveling because travel has a number of uncertainties that I don't, I thought I was going to pray there, and I got there, there was a bunch of young white gentlemen with skin heads at that rest stop. So I thought, maybe this isn't the best place to make my salah. So I kept going, and then Maghrib was about to go out. So it's all of those kinds of uncertainties. All of those uncertainties are what they're trying to capture in the idea of accommodating the travel, right? You know, travel is, subhanAllah, man, travel, you know, it's amazing how, you know, for many of us, we expect great amenity, great comfort, and great luxury in travel. For a lot of people, travel was like, it was like death defying. Like traditionally, travel was like, you know, you like kissed your children and made sure people knew what your will was. Like, I'm traveling this weekend, darling. My will is in the chest, in the strong box. You know, it's like, tell the kids I love them. And, you know, it's like, you don't know what's going to happen. You know, there's a lot of things like that that I think, and this is, you know, Sonia and I were talking about it. When you read, like in Islamic law, you realize just there was a lot of things that we take for granted that were not taken for granted in the traditional world, in the ancient world. So like, even when we like talk about like men going out hunting to get food for their families, I think we talk about it like, you know, he went out at 9 and he came back at 5. Yeah, so I'm back with sometimes they would be out there for weeks. You know, they'll be out for weeks trying to forage and find food for their family. You know, they'd be out there for like, it wasn't like he called, oh, here comes you know, the rabbits or something like that. So like, he's out there for weeks, like the revenant or something like that. He's out there like, you know, my son. You know, so he's out there for weeks. So, you know, it's stuff like that that I think when they said travel, they meant like a very dangerous, uncertain process. We mean like, oh yeah, you know. So for instance, women traveling without a mahram, right? That was something that was not intended to limit the freedom or mobility of women. It was something to remind the community of the imperative of protecting women, right? The Prophet ﷺ said in an authentic hadith, he was in Medina and he said that when this da'wah to Islam is successful, a woman will be able to ride from Mecca to Syria, fearing nothing besides Allah. Alone. A woman will be able to go alone from Mecca to Syria, fearing nothing besides Allah. He was saying, this is the kind of security that we endeavor to establish in this place. Because why is he? And that was like something ambitious for them, because the road was filled with highway robbers, rapers, enslavers. I mean, like that's what travel was to them. Like, so the idea that a woman could travel without somebody like protecting her, no way. That's like, you know what can happen to you out there? It's like, you know, I mean, sometimes I think when we think about like the ancient world, there are no central governments and there are no laws. You know, without a tribal system and people to protect you, you have no real legal standing, right? So you get outside of your village, your tribe, you can be abducted, raped, enslaved, anything can happen to you. It's not like, you know, this is against the Geneva Accords, you know, it's like, it's like anything can happen to you, right? And that's why intelligent scholars, they say, well, in our time, the existence of police, security personnel in airports, that provides the kind of security that the Prophet was talking about. So a woman can travel without a mahram. However, it is still, you know, the modern world, man, it's weird because we do feel a great deal of security, but travel is still dangerous, right? And there are still certain dangers that my wife assumes when she walks out of the door that I don't. That's still, you know, it's like, I think remembering that while at the same time remembering that my wife is very capable and, you know, was traveling without me before we met and can go places and can do things. It's like trying to hold those two together. Sometimes it's very difficult. You know what I'm saying? Because the world is still a dangerous place. You know, and the world is still a dangerous place. So, but I guess what I'm attempting to address is just that there are many things about when we read like classical works of Islamic scholarship, there are many assumptions that we're making about their world that are much different than our world. That's what I'm saying. Like they're talking about something completely different. Right? So when they say travel, they mean like I was at the United Airlines lounge. It's like, no, they're talking about, man, I could be killed. You know what I mean? I'm away from my tribe. I got my business stuff with me. I'm going to trade in another place. I could be murdered. Anything can happen to me. So the idea of like joining my prayers is like, just hurry up, just pray, Lord, just keep going. You never know who's lurking, who's waiting. Somebody can attack me. You got to keep going, right? And this is why, too, in our tradition, it was always a great sign of virtue to host travelers, right? To host of any religious, faith or lack thereof, just because the traveler is a person in a very vulnerable position. So the people that reach out to the traveler, no, we'll take care of you. That was always a very, very noble calling. You know what I'm saying? A very noble calling. And that's one place that I think it's difficult because so many people expect alcohol, but I would love to see Muslims really excel in hospitality. The best hotels, most comfortable, but again, I think, for so many people, alcohol is just an expectation of their stay. So for us to provide, service that we feel is the best without alcohol might be difficult. But it can be done. It can be done. It can be done. It can be done. Other questions?
Quick ones, when you're talking about the dog, so I grew up I don't know what method it was. My dad always said, if you want to know, anytime you let's see, you have to 7 times. And
I mean, well, yeah, everything. Definitely. Yeah.
So the other methods, do they know that too?
No, I think I'm not sure about Hanafis, but I know Malikis. No, it's not a. I mean, to characterize Malikis as like dog is man's best friend, I think that would be kind of overshooting it. But it's definitely not like, oh my God, there's a dog. It's not. Yeah, I think that's a cultural thing. I'm sorry. It's like dog. And then I mean, when I lived in Egypt, I mean, dogs are most dogs are not domesticated. They're wild dogs. They're very dirty. Very. I mean, they would probably come to America and see a dog and think, "Damn, what is that? That's a dog?" And the coat is like gleaming, clean, and the teeth are like, damn, those are better than my teeth. The teeth are like, dog has nail polish on, and bedazzled flea collar, and it's just like, yeah, is that a dog or is that something else? But the dog is like, mangy, eating out of trash cans and ribs showing because the dog is emaciated. And, I think, so I think, yeah, out of dogs are not, yeah, are not esteemed among the Arab. I think, dogs in Western European culture, and by extension, American culture, they have a unique place. They're not. I don't think that's not a universal thing. That like dogs are man's best friend. That's a very particularly Western thing. That like is raising dogs, domesticating them, and it's a very very Western. I don't even think like sub-Saharan African cultures, Asian cultures. I don't think that like dogs are like that. I don't think it's that kind of thing. Cats are much more the domesticated animals. People love cats and they keep cats. But yeah, that's a very Western thing. Dogs, people kiss their dogs. I'm just like, oh, I mean, so hot. Mashallah. But dogs are a lot of fun. Dogs are a lot of fun.
So they're not ninjas. They're not considered ninjas.
No, not in the Maliki school, but I think in the Shafi'i school they are considered. They are considered that.
It's not like that because you get to tell you that if the dog in the house, there's the angels will leave the home.
Yeah, no, there's hadith about that. and there are hadith about that. But many people offer some contextualizations. So if you have a dog at the home for a legitimate purpose, guard dog, hunting dog, something like that, then that's something different. If the dog has its own quarters, so this is where we keep the dog. We keep the dog in here. That's almost like that's not the house. That's the dog's place. It's kind of like the barn is the animal's place, right? So we don't say like, oh man, my house has dog poop in it or has poop in it. It's like, no, that's the barn. The barn is where the animals do their business, where the animals live. So you have a part of your home, maybe the basement or the attic or the dog house or something like that, or the garage or something. It's like, yes, this is a part of our house, but it's the part that we reserve for the dog. So it's different.
And this is off, it's another whole angel thing, growing up told you can't have pictures on the wall. It's like portraits of your family.
Pictures are difficult. Art is a difficult, it's a difficult subject because, for one, photography is not representational art. Photography is, that is the person. Photography, one of those contradictions that have always struck me as like, strange is that some people that swear by the hurma, the impermissibility of photography. Like they will not put up photographs in the home, but they'll watch television. Which to me is just like, see, that's one of those things that it's just like, God bless your heart. I realize that it's something being done out of piety. Like I don't put up, it's like astaghfirullah. I don't hang pictures in my house. And I said, well, if that image on your wall is haram, then even more, an image that's living and moving and talking on your wall must be haram. You know what I'm saying? But many people that will not hang photos will watch TV. And now it's a flat screen TV and it's also on the wall. It's just like, I don't understand. Methodologically, I don't know what the difference between those two are. In fact, I would say the television is more lifelike. If that isn't it, no, but in both cases, the television and the photograph, it's not a portrait. That's the person. That's them. Hua, yani. That's him. That is just like Allah created them. Right? We've captured a still life, or there's a moving image. It's the person. Portraiture, meaning hand-drawn pictures, a little bit different. The dominant opinion is that you want to avoid pictures that are lifelike. And the most permissive opinion, and I take the most permissive opinion because I love art. My home is filled with art. Is that it is the eyes that separate a stencil from a lifelike picture. So if I make a stick figure, that's not a lifelike picture. But if I make a picture that has very real eyes, right? This is when the picture becomes an impermissible kind of representational picture. The eye is representative of what that creature looks like in nature. A living thing, right? All landscape portraits and stuff like that, no problem. A living thing. Some people say if the eyes are obscured, then it can be considered just a stencil or an outline, and it's fine. That's the most permissive opinion. But honestly, I probably take the most permissive opinion because I really enjoy artwork. So.
Drawing in general,
well, with drawing in general, they say that you want to avoid the representation on the lifelike. Same things with that. See, a lot of this stuff it's weird. It's weird. And maybe because it's my field of study, I know all the nuances. Because I know people that say, no pictures, no portraiture, but the kids watch cartoons. No, the sheikh, he's super strict. No, this is all haram. He invited me for lunch and his kids were watching animation. And I said, okay, okay. Yeah, so my point is that, I don't know. Some people say if the thing being drawn is khurafi, it's make believe, it's not real. Like a spinning Tasmanian devil or something like that, right? There's no problem. So I don't know. Like I said, it's a complicated area, but I don't know. One of those things, man. One of those things. سبحان الله وبحمده سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت وأستغفرك ونتوب إليه بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر آمين يا رب العالمين جزاكم الله خير. No class next week inshallah. I will be in Cancun praying all of my prayers the full length and on time inshallah. Inshallah. Jazakallah khair.